Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to the Reawaken Your Health podcast. I am very excited to share a new guest with you, Dr. Edgar Reynoso Vanderhorst, who is joining us today. He is a physician. He has done a residency in pediatrics and is a neonatology fellow. So those of you who have had babies in the NICU, you're very familiar with physicians who work in the NICU to help your babies become healthier so they can go home to you. So I appreciate Edgar. Thank you so much for joining us today and coming on the show to share with us your knowledge.
Thank you, Amy, for these invitations. And I'm really ready to share information and help people to bring the best version of themselves with physiology and understanding.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. So can you tell me, how did you end up in the world of pediatrics as well as wellness? Because we're going to be talking about a little bit of both and how those combine together. How did you end up here?
Yeah, well, my story about how I became a pediatrician. Since I was young, I was surrounded by environment of helping orphan kids because my grandmother, she was orphan. So I'm
Okay.
from the Dominican Republic, and we were always building like churches, giving charity for orphan kids, and be surrounded about that environment helped me to give my passion to serve others in the best way that I can, and more indeed in pediatrics. Later on, when I was on my journey to become a pediatrician, I was because I'm from the Dominican Republic, I had to take the United States medical license examination.
Mhm.
In that journey, I tried to dig in the wellness holistic wisdom. With the
Okay.
background of basic science and physiology, I tried to understand the connection between neuroscience and wellness.
Mhm.
When I started to do my pediatric residency and now my fellowship, I realized that as a pediatrician, I'm not only treating kids, I'm impacting family by giving information how they can raise their loved one.
Mhm.
But at the same time, when I work more deep in my field, NICU, most of my baby, they don't talk to me. I need
Yeah.
to understand how our body works, how the physiology of the body should work in order to help them to raise all the organs that they need to be raised and be formed in order to give to their parents. So
Mhm.
that deep understanding of how our body works in the wellness practice helped me to put it together in a simple, easy way in my book so people can use tools. Because one thing is to understand the information. Other things, what tools can I use in my daily life that I can help me to bring the best version of myself. So that's my purpose and my understanding based on with pediatrics and wellness.
That's great. And so when you are studying these infants and even studying before you get to in the infants, you're studying this concept of neurophysiology. For those who are listening who aren't familiar with what that means, can you talk about that a little bit and break it down, what you're looking at?
Yeah, perfect. When I talk about neurophysiology, it's meaning how our brains with other organs work. Because our brain is the one that have connections and connect with every organs in our body. Okay. We when we talk about our like our brain, we had to talk about the nervous system that it's divided like central nervous system, peripheral nervous system. At the same time, when I talk about physiology, it's how the hormones, how like the respiratory rate, how the heart rate, it comes together, how electrolytes, everything comes together, work in synchronized, in balance for our body in order to work.
Mhm.
So when we put it together, how the brain sends signals to different part of the organs and how should it works, that we talk about neurophysiology, like how every organ should work with the connections with the brain and the peripheral nervous system.
Mhm. That's great. And so you're seeing certain patterns then even in infants who are in the neonatal intensive care unit?
Yeah,
Okay.
indeed. As a pediatrician, when I was doing my pediatric residency, we had to understand what milestone is some development that every kids have to do like at 2 months 4 months.
Mhm.
Those milestone it's related with the cognitions of every kids. And then when I talk about like NICU, we talk
Mhm.
about like premature baby that not all the organs are already developed. So I need to understand how the brains will develop. When I say how I measure the brain development, I measure
Mhm.
first how they grow in mass. Okay.
Mhm.
And then later on in life, I see the milestone. Milestone will be the cognition development based of motor, sensitive language skill that the baby do, and that tell me what part of the brain is more developed and which are not. So
Gotcha.
with this information, like development milestone, can
Mhm.
give me a guidance of how to understand the perspective, not only in kids, in adult. Because in kids, I need to understand how the brain will be developed. In
Mhm.
adult, it's already developed.
Right. Can we tie how a person acts as an adult to this development as a child, as an infant? Or can we change based on how we've developed as an infant so it doesn't influence us as an adult? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And honestly, when you're an adult, we there's a term that we call neuroplasticity.
Mhm.
Neuroplasticity is like the connections that every cells in our brain can still develop when you're even a child and when you're an adult. There is some research that say like, no, when you're an adult, there's stuff like stop making connection. No, our brain's still making connections. And those connections, it's intertwined with based on your experience, based also of how you stimulate those receptors. Because in order to develop and to learn few things with neuroplasticity in our brain, you have to stimulate that part. If you
Mhm.
never stimulate, it will never develop.
Got
It's the
it.
same. Let me put it that sample. If I have a kid like a 3 year old,
Mhm.
and we say a 1 year old, you have to say one word. 2 years old, two words together. 3 years old, three words together. 4 years old, I need to understand you 80%. So yeah, I have a 3 year old that it's only told me two words together. I asked to the parents, are you talking to them? Because it's no one is talking to the kids like how they gonna learn to talk, how they gonna learn words. So that's what I mean by stimulations in every aspect in cognition of the brain. It's also with movement, with walking.
Mhm.
It's not only part like for language, it's also a skills. So
Right.
how I can we connect with a brain that it's already developed like in adult? For me, I always say that always room for neuroplasticity. You only need stimulation to continue growing that part that you want to develop. So in this
Right.
life experience, just learning skills, and every skill just needs stimulation. And if you get the what I say curiosity and you want to stimulate that part, you will develop that part because we still have the neuroplasticity even when we're old.
That's great. So, your observation and knowledge of infants can help adults still grow. And basically, if we want to learn more in the arts, just start doing stuff in the arts to stimulate the brain to be more receptive to learning those skills, right?
It,
Right.
excellent, excellent.
Okay, wonderful. So we can also take this into the wellness sphere as well, because if we can improve our health as infants and use this neurophysiology, neuroplasticity, well, neurophysiology knowledge in infants, we can then use neuroplasticity to help us as adults as well in the wellness world, right?
Excellent. And there's one particular part that I realized.
Mhm.
In infants, who are the ones who give the stimuli to the infants? It's adults.
Right.
So in my book, in my part, it's like let me give tools to adults how they can understand the body, they understand the physiology, the brain. So if they understand the brain, probably all the kids they look at the role model, like they just copy what the parents do. Even if
Mhm.
they don't say no, they don't copy. Yeah, indeed.
Mhm.
In like as a pediatricians and I see on my clinics, all those kids less like 7 years old, 8 years old, they're gonna say everything that happened in the house. They're gonna copy everything that their parents do. Okay. So based on that understanding, I say like I need to give tools and understanding because it's I don't understand their body, how they works, how they can grow in every aspect. It's gonna be more beneficial also for their kids. So it's like a balance. But my focus will be more in adults. Like, let me give you tools to adults. So it can be a positive ripple effect for kids too.
Mhm. What do you find as one of the most important changes that adults can make to make a bigger impact on their kids in the adult's own behavior?
Excellent. I like that question because that's nailed down to understand one part. I realized that adults in life, we make choices and our choices made us at the same time. We're here in this life not to make the right choices. It's just to make the choices that it doesn't matter the outcomes, we're gonna take care of ourselves. When we're calm, we can make choices that help us to bring the best version of ourselves. When I say bring the best version of ourselves, it's unique. Everyone have their own version of themselves. You are the only one who know your own advantage and disadvantage. When I talk about that, I need to talk about epigenetics. Epigenetics is all the change that happen in your DNA based on your experience. Since you were born till now, nobody had the same experience as you. So if you want to be fair enough, you can never compare yourself with no one because you're the only one who know your own advantage and disadvantage. But nobody gave you a script of how to be yourself. You're learning this life experience. So as an adult, if you are present, if you understand that you want to bring the best version of yourself, you understand what type of creation you want to be, what type of person you want to be, that will be a positive ripple effect. What tools can I use in order to develop that part? Because that's easy and like I can say enlightened to say that part. But how can I do in my daily life? What can I do in order to forge and do the person, become the person, the woman, the man that I want to be? Well, I talk about like breath technique that I normally do when I'm in chaos because in NICU it's like intensive care unit. You work under stress and every decision that I make is life and death decision. So I always need to be focused. But that's breath technique that I do here is not only for when you're under stress, when you're in the intensive care unit, also in your daily life. You have a lot of choices that you have to make. And those choices can help you to bring the best version of yourself, to raise and be the leader that you should be or not. So one thing that I strongly recommend, first is when you are under chaos and you want to be calm, remind yourself, you can do a deep inhale for 4 seconds. You're gonna hold for 2 seconds, and you're gonna exhale slowly for 6 seconds, and you're gonna hold for 2 seconds again. You're gonna repeat that cycle for 5 times. That will help you to decrease your heart rate in a faster way. When you're decreasing your heart rate, you can see reality and the thing that it's happening, external things, as it is, rather than our thoughts tell us. You put yourself in a way that you're the observer of life, and you can make the choices, or you can respond to a stimuli in a way that it's more suitable for you. That's one part. The second part that I strongly recommend to adults is to read one positive quote a day. How that is gonna work. Our environment and everything that we do in life give you a perspective. The response that you give to life, it depends on the perspective that you have in your life. The perspective that you give in your life is the focus. So you have to remind yourself with external things what the focus you want in life. When you read a positive quote a day, will remind that it doesn't matter what situation happened in your life, you will remind the things that you want to learn from that perspective. I won't say it can be a good day or bad day. The perspective that you give to that situation, that will determine and help your response. That's what we talk about mindset. But we need external source that help us. That's why when you read a positive quote a day, even say in the morning, in the afternoon, but just a day, it's remind you. The third thing that I strongly recommend is it doesn't matter if you get the information, but if you don't apply the information, the tools that you learned in the situation when you need it, it won't count. So how can I develop a good self-talk with myself that I can remind myself all the things that I'm learning with the information, with all the podcasts that I'm hearing, with the books that I'm reading, to use them when I really need it? Something that I can recommend is to increase what we call oxytocin, the empathy hormone. Let me give you an example, like as a pediatrician, how I understand that part, the empathy with yourself. When you give a high five to yourself to the mirror every morning, you increase the oxytocin with yourself. And that's the hormone empathy. How it's gonna work. When you have your child in pediatricians, you breastfeed your baby. When you breastfeed your baby, you deliver oxytocin. Most of the women, they have heard, the ones who have give birth, they have heard what postpartum blue means. Postpartum blue means is that some women can get a little depressed, but that's normal. Why? Because you're under a new hormones. At the same time, you are deprived of sleep. You have to feed a baby every 2 hours. There is no sleep. Someone that is crying. So we all this burden, and that's why they're called postpartum blue. But how can you love? People say, I love my child right away. But that empathy with your child is still built when you are giving breastfeed more. Why? Because you release oxytocin. You develop this connection with your child. So this
Yeah.
connection your child is something physiological that something happens. Okay. But what about if I increase it oxytocin with myself and also with everyone? That's why you give a high five or give a hug to someone that you really like and you really love. You don't give a high five or give a hug to everyone. It's because you feel connected because you increase the oxytocin to someone.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
with all this tool, like I teach you, or I spoke right now, how to remain calm in a technique to make sure that you're present and do the response that you want to give in life to help to bring the best version of yourself. How to remind the perspective, the mindset to face the response of every situation in your life, and how can you develop that self-talk in yourself to remind yourself which perspective, which type of creation, or which type of person I want to develop in this life.
Yeah.
Other things that is important is to understand our body because this is a life experience. We are the observer of life. But this body is a machine that helps us to cope with stress.
Mhm.
When I'm gonna say like when you die, no one this body won't like alive by itself and someone will use it. You're the only one who's gonna use this body. So bring the best version of themselves and take the advantage of that. But this
Yeah.
body is like a vehicle. It needs certain things. It needs sleep, healthy
Mhm.
diet, exercise, movement. Okay. When we talk about sleep, there's a ton of research and book that you can find out. People say 7 hours, 8 hours. How do I know it? Because I work every day and I cannot give me the pleasure to sleep 7 hours because I need to wake up very early.
Mhm.
Some studies say if you have a constant amount of hour, that's better than one day 8 hours, tomorrow 5 hours, the next day 3 hours. If you like every day can do and learn like go to sleep at the same time, wake up at the same time, that's better. Meaning like 6 hours every day, that's better for cognition and help you to rewire some hormones in your brain.
Mhm.
So like serotonin, dopamine, acetylcholine. Let me be clear on that part. Like
Yeah.
if you don't sleep, all your hormone is all over the place. When I talk about hormones, there's different type of hormones, okay?
Mm.
But I'm talking about the ones in our brain. Serotonin, acetylcholine, dopamine. If you have high dopamine, that's why we have person with hallucination, schizophrenia. And the type of medication that we normally give is dopamine blockage because too much dopamine, it causes hallucination. When you're depressed, we say that you have low serotonin. So we gave medication to inhibit the reuptake of serotonin, so increase serotonin. So there is some study like if you are deprived of sleep for more than like the 24 to 48 hours, you're gonna have all your hormone all over the place and you can have hallucination. But now you understand why. That's something
Yes.
that we need.
Right. Right. That
The
makes sense.
next it makes sense and we that's why it's we had to understand our body. And everybody is different. I only give you the tools and the research, but everybody's different. That's why you have to understand how your body work. The next one is healthy diet. In our intestine, we have microbiomes, but different bacteria. I understand that part because a newborn, the first stool that you will see is gonna look black. It we call meconium. This is
Yeah.
just threading cell. But later on in life, you will see that 1 day old, 2 days old, they're gonna change in color. It's gonna be like greenish and then yellowish. This when you start to introduce like breast milk or formula, whatever you introduce, start to colonize. You have microbiome.
Mhm.
With that part in pediatrics, I understand in our body, those microbiome help us because produce cytokines. Those cytokines that help us. A plant-based diet produce type of microbiome that produce serotonin, that we have serotonin in our intestine, and at the same time increase our immune system. And we have animal diet that produce some bacteria that produce cytokines that are inflammatory for the endovascular endothelium. All the nutrients that we get it go to the endothelium, meaning for the blood vessel. With this information, I don't tell you like you should go vegetarian, you should go vegan. No. I just want to increase your plant-based diet because they're proven that you will develop some microbiomes that help you to bring the best version of yourself, to produce cytokines that help you. Okay,
Wow.
you can take your favorite fruits a day. I don't know if you like apple, banana, whatever fruit you like. I like apple.
Yeah.
And the other thing is movement.
Mhm.
In we call in science something that you don't use, like if you don't use a muscle, it's gonna atrophy. Atrophy is gonna lose the size. So
Mhm.
that's why our body need movement. If you go to the gym, that's better exercise, but just intentional, like you go to work and you walk. Instead of to take the elevator, you take the stairs. Even that people don't count as exercise, it does because you're moving, you're using your muscle, you're using every part of your body. So understanding that part of how our body needs, understand how our brains work, meaning like how our thoughts, what perspective I want to give in life, how I can bring myself, and how can I increase or decrease my heart rate. It helps you to manage your daily life in the way that you can.
Yeah. This is all great. Wonderful. So, as you're talking about all of these different aspects, if you can get parents and adults, even grandparents, to change their lifestyle, have you seen the direct correlation to how it affects a child?
Indeed. Yes.
Mhm.
How so? Because when we talk about like how it's gonna change the child, I want to see results right away.
Mhm.
How we gonna measure that? Me as a pediatrician, I understand. If I have a parent that take different tools, because I'm giving tool, you use the one that it help you, the one that it doesn't help you. There is different type. But when I see a parents that really are stay tuned and present with themselves and take care of themselves, they have more energy and are more tuned to take care of their kids, to give the stimuli that the baby kids like the kids needs. So
Yeah.
it's more for me, if I have healthy parents, healthy adults, I will
Mhm.
have healthy generations, healthy kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
People will say like, give me tangible results. The tangible results I cannot give like, oh, I can measure with a score or make a QI. No.
Mm.
The tangible result will be it's I'm gonna see better. When I say better outcomes will be, let's put it in that way, healthier life. And when I say healthier life will be less hypertensions later on, like long-term complications, less, we can say, diabetes in long-term complications because they have healthy diet, they have movement. I can say better cognitions because when you have parents that are present, they understand how to regulate their emotions at the same time. And if you have parents to understand how to regulate the emotions when you're calm and understand your thoughts.
Mhm.
You have kids to understand that part and help to learn that part because when they get to adolescent phase is, we recognize as a pediatrician adolescent phase because it's the emotional phase, because you
Right.
have a lot of hormones that kick in, and
Okay.
when you have hormones you react to stimuli. But when you have parents to understand and have the resources and the tools to know how to regulate themselves, they teach to the teenagers and to their kids, and also you can see the outcomes of that part.
What about a lot of childhood behavior is now attributed to ADHD or ADD? Have you seen any correlation between adult behavior and lifestyle and children who develop ADD or ADHD? Is there any correlation?
Interesting. That's a really good questions. And I'm gonna be totally honest. As a pediatrician, we're
Mhm.
still finding the cause of what it causes ADHD. We
Okay.
have some research that say right now we have more ADHD probably because we're diagnosing more, or probably
Right.
it's the environment that is
Mhm.
causing us to develop this type of disease. I have other research that I read. It's about like it's disorganization how the brain develop, like one side of the brain, the right and the left, doesn't have a good connection. That's why they have ADHD and also other type of disorder. So I cannot tell you per se that I can see a correlation, but we
Got it.
still figure out like what are the causes and why we have more than in the past.
Right. Right. So right now we don't know. It could be genetics, it could be environment, chemicals, diet, could be lifestyle. So it could be a combination or it could be one of them. We just don't have all that data yet, basically.
Yeah. I
Okay.
it's specific. We don't have like all the data, but I can tell you like all the research ones. The ones that it's a environment, it's a like in the past, kids did not have like iPads, and iPads you have a lot of like shows that had different time and like pops out, pops out. When I say pops out, it's like one time you have one image, then you have other image. So this flashing back of image on the eyes of the babies, it put them like in the faster rate, and that's why they can trigger and develop ADHD. That's one research hypothesis. The other one is say that when you have a child that have autism spectrum disorder, that they have some type of behavior. This type of behavior is probably because they mature just one side of the brain that it's related with one side that they one behavior that they like to do, and they need stimulation with other part. The
Mhm.
other part is like genetics. Genetics is well known. We know some disease in genetic, but in the genetic field that cause like autism spectrum disorder, ADHD. Okay,
Mhm.
but that's all the latest research. But we're still looking forward to know what are the cause.
Gotcha. Well, that's good. I appreciate your honesty about that because I know many mothers are concerned about that. And it's always good to know, hey, is there some possibility in my behavior influencing that? And so I know ideally we want to be as healthy as possible. And hopefully most parents want to do that so they can influence their kid in a good way. So this is all fabulous information. And I know you wrote a book, Wellness Optimizing Yourself. Is this part of your book, all these tools that you've described to us?
Yeah, on my book, I describe all the tools and why we have to use it and understanding how our body works using those tools.
Okay.
Because for me, my I understand that we grow in a society in the togetherness. We don't grow alone.
Yeah.
But in the togetherness, we had to share information with each other. We had to be vulnerable. Because
Mhm.
for me to learn something, I don't have to go through the same experience as you to learn something. Probably we can have a conversation, be vulnerable with each other, and we can learn. So my goal with this book and also with like with my purpose because I like to be like a neonatologist. It's just to share the information that I'm learning and give it to others, and we can share each other information to bring the best version of ourselves, like to grow as a society in it
Right.
together.
Right. So who would you say is the best audience for your book? Is it all adults? Is it parents? Who?
Yeah, excellent. Honestly, for me, it's not
Mhm.
only adults, parents, it's everyone who have a curiosity
Okay.
to see a new perspective of
Okay.
how I can bring the best version of myself.
Right.
You can be a teenager, you can be a grad school, you can be a parent, you can be a grandparents. So it's just anyone who just want to see how I can improve myself with a perspective that I can understand. And because I know I have the we say basic science knowledge and the doctor knowledge. For me, it's
Mhm.
not to write a book to give you information. No, for me, it's to give the information that I understand in an easy, tangible, and efficient way. Because
Mhm.
for me, it's not like, yeah, to let you know that I know this information. No, it's for me to share the information in a way that you can understand and easy to digest and
Got
giving tools that you can use in your daily life. So
Right.
that was my goal with this book, and it's for everyone who really had the curiosity to start a new journey and understand a new perspective.
Okay. Okay. Well, this is great. This is all wonderful information. If people want to reach out to you or buy your book, how's the best way they can get more information?
Yep. If they want to buy my book, they can go to Amazon and type Wellness Optimizing Yourself. I have the hardcover, paperback, ebook, audiobook, if they like just to hearing. At the same time, they want to connect with me, they can do it by Instagram. I'm Edgar Reynoso Vanderhorst. Also LinkedIn if they want to. And that's so far the social platform that I have for now.
You're a little busy. Besides writing a book, you also have a fellowship. I mean, you have a lot going on. So that's That's good. Limit yourself a little so you can do all the activities in your life. But well, this is great. I really appreciate you coming on and talking about all these concepts of neuroplasticity and neurophysiology and how we can improve our wellness and how it relates to children. So I thank you very much for your time.
No, and I really thank you for all the work that you do because being podcast and sharing information, that's part of how we can grow as a society. Because we just want to contribute in society in the best way that we can by sharing knowledge and learning few things, how to stimulate ourselves and increase our neuroplasticity.
Absolutely. Exactly. And thank you so much. And thank you all for joining us today. I really appreciate your supporting us and learning more about your health so you can feel better. And thank you again. We will see you again next week. Take care. Bye now.